Here we are today with Sarah Mardle, a very accomplished individual within the life sciences sector who I know that through BioTalent we've known for a number of years, and a number of consultants have spoken to you personally and professionally. So it's a real honor to have you here with us today to have a conversation about a number of things. How are you feeling in your life right now in general, Sarah?
Very good, thank you, Steve. It's quite exciting. It's my first podcast ever, so I feel quite energised by the opportunity of coming down to London from Cambridge today and meet you in person. Although we've spoken so many times, that
absolutely
hug made sense.
Indeed.
When I saw you.
Absolutely. Very well received as well. Sarah, obviously, there are many people globally who are tuned into our channel, and it's important that we give them an important whistle stop, if you will, as to who Sarah is. So if you don't mind, just give us a whirlwind tour of your journey professionally so far.
So I will try to do that succinctly, and you say professional, but if it's okay, I will also interject a little bit of personal, because for me, profession and family are very intertwined in my career.
Absolutely.
And some of the things that have happened to me in my career have been also directed by what I wanted to do in my personal life.
Go for it.
Like most people.
Please.
So I was born in France, and English father and French mother. And they were both encouraging us as children to be bilingual. So always had a love for England. And I was lucky at the end of my school years in France to move to the UK to study at Southampton University. I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do, but I definitely wanted to be a scientist.
Mm-hmm.
And I was able to do 2 degrees in one, pharmacology and biochemistry. And I was lucky enough to also have a year out in industry. And that really opened my eyes as to what I might want to do next. And I remember seeing somebody, he was the head of department, and I said back in the days, what do I need to do to be in that role one day? And back in the days, it was very classic, well, you're going to need a PhD for that. And so I did. So I went, yep, fine, I'll go and get a PhD. Neuroscience was something that I was really interested in, so it made sense to continue in that journey. And I guess it was the healthcare side and making things better. So neuroscience of pain, understanding how pain works was really fascinating for me. And then moved after a postdoc, decided, actually, I'm not a scientist that can be in the lab every day. I admired so much my colleagues who were postdocs, but it really wasn't for me, academia, and decided to move to Cambridge with my then husband to be close to his 2 children. So it was very much a decision of location, geography. And I was lucky again to be found by a startup company. And I grew my role in that startup to the point where I needed to fly out of the nest after a good 10 years and moved into still healthcare industry, but more pharmaceuticals, medical devices.
Okay.
And then I've been at team consulting now for 4 years, still in Cambridge, very much love the Cambridge area, and had 3 children throughout. And yeah, some of the career choices that I made were very much about doing the right thing for them as well as for my family.
Yeah. Which I know a number of professionals will empathise with and understand. I too have 2 very beautiful daughters, beautiful right now, and they will continue to be beautiful, I might stress. That might cause me to lose a little bit more hair in the future, but nevertheless, things are going very well. Thank you for that. What I want to know is, or focus on now, is maybe the women in leadership, if you will, Sarah. You started, what are some of the earliest positions that you had professionally?
As a leader,
Before leadership.
Before leadership,
yeah.
I guess when you go and do a PhD, you learn to help others very quickly. Mm-hmm. So in your first year, you find out your way around a laboratory on your own. You're very, very independent, and you've got to work with colleagues to have access to all the resources, the labs, everything. But very quickly, you end up not being the new person, and then you end up helping others and helping younger students or more junior students on their journey. So very quickly, you're a second-year PhD student, and suddenly you're a mentor to somebody who's arrived.
Right.
And you've got to teach them what you learned in your first year. So it's a very collaborative area, I think, when you're in a big lab and you're a very junior researcher. And you have to rely on all your colleagues and other people who've been there to help you out.
So you worked in the labs, you worked as a junior researcher.
Yeah.
And then, correct me if I'm wrong, you took a direction within quality assurance or quality.
That was quite late on in my career, actually.
Okay.
I did a lot of management before. So I was in scientific roles in that startup. Mm-hmm. But on the other side of the bench. So I was helping scientists figure out what their problems were with the products of the company. So very much using my scientific knowledge and having done the techniques myself, I could picture what their struggles were, and I was doing technical support. And the technical team grew, and suddenly the startup needed more people to actually keep the momentum going. So very quickly, somebody needed to be supervising a team of very bright scientists. And I must have had something in me that made me the right person. So I had somebody who appointed me and coached me in my first few years to be a manager.
Let's stay on that then. You said you had a coach, someone who mentored.
Yep.
What advice did this individual or these individuals have on you to help move you from a position which was not in management or leadership to leadership?
I think they were not very direct advice, not words of wisdom, I would say. They were more practical things. So when I was encountering issues as a manager, I would have somebody to talk them through. And that particular person was very good at helping me figure it out myself. Rather than just saying, oh, this is how I would do it, it would start with, what do you think? And what might be the options that you would consider? So it was very much a conversation. So it helped me figure things out and made me more resilient, because I was able then to do that to myself and go, okay, well, what are the options? What can I think? Who are the people I need to speak to? And that was incredibly helpful. And that's what I try to do in my own way now with the people that I manage.
Put it back on you for you to force yourself to think.
Yes, yeah.
The way in which that's done is very skilled, I think, because you can appreciate, you want to know answers, you want to know questions. So give me the answers, give me the questions, as opposed to hearing, well, Sarah, what do you think?
Yeah.
Did your mentors or coaches have a background in leadership coaching, for example, do you think? Or, where do they come from in terms of being the coaches or mentors that you aspire to be like?
The particular person that really helped me, I think, had that natural ability. She was good with people, and I model myself on her. She wasn't much older than me, 5 years, 6 years older than me, but she'd gone through that herself, and I think she was really good at doing that, the same sort of coaching.
Yeah.
And she's now completely moved out of the industry.
Really?
And is a teacher.
Okay.
And that says something, you know, when you've got somebody has those skills to teach people.
She's now left the industry.
Yeah.
You're still in industry.
Yeah.
It's nice to hear of your journey to industry, hailing from France to obviously come to the UK, and your appreciation of the world, if you will. Knowing what you know now, what would be your best piece of advice to anyone wishing to embark upon a career in the life sciences?
So I'm exactly in that situation, having a 17-year-old who is touring universities now.
Okay.
And is about to embark in certainly a step towards a career in the life sciences.
Really?
So it's quite a proud moment,
Yeah.
you know. And I've taken him back to Southampton University for an open day a few weeks ago. So I've been in that situation of giving him that advice, and it's not quite the same sort of course he wants to do, but it's a scientific course. He may change his mind. There's still a year to go, but he seems pretty set. I think what I've tried to help him do is not focus on what do you want to be in 10 years' time.
Okay.
It's too far. So focus on what you really love doing. There will be things that happen in your life that, you know, I didn't plan to go into quality. I didn't plan to go into business operations. It just, things happened, and they meant they made sense to me at the time, and that was the choice I made then. So I've tried to say to him, start with the first few years, and then you'll figure out whether you really enjoy it or not. But and follow your passion. If you're really, really passionate about something really good will happen. For me, being in research and in academia at some point did not make sense anymore, but I enjoyed it while it was there. But I knew that after those 4 years, okay, that's not quite where my passion was, and I had to go into a different branch.
Okay. I mean, there's going to be learning along the way, isn't there?
Absolutely.
There's going to be learning along the way, and good luck to your son with his decision making. I'm sure he'll be coached and mentored as well as you were. With women in life sciences, you know, we've seen articles and big spreads in the media about, you know, the CEO of an American pharmaceutical company, for example, roughly 5-6 years ago. There are, it would be seen, I think it'd be safe to say, a lack of senior women professionals compared to men in industry. In your opinion, how can we ensure that we help create more inclusive environments for women within the life sciences then, if the numbers are obviously not as great compared to the amount of male hires?
There certainly needs to be a lot more. I do feel that we are on a better journey than we were probably 10 years ago. So I've seen a shift in how women are treated and perceived over the last 10 years. So I think we're on a good journey. It would be good if it was accelerated. Because at the rate we're at, we certainly won't be at a 50-50 in the near future, which is a real shame. I guess from my experiences, I've had some good and not so good experiences. Celebrating the difference and trying to actually see what women can do differently and not try to put everybody in the same category. So by that I mean, in the current company I work in, there's a lot of women engineer, and they're incredibly bright. And what you don't want to end up with is one-size-fits-all model that all the women engineers are supposed to be acting and behaving like men engineers. They don't. They bring different skills and different ways of seeing things, and we should actually harness that. You see women who may have more softer skills sometimes, and that can be a real great addition in an organisation. So not trying to have everybody feeling and acting the same, and respecting the differences, whether that's men, women, but it could also be other differences as well. So I think also in our organisation, we really help people have discussions about that. We offer training on unconscious bias, for example, and that's not something that I had early on in my career. And it's simple things like that to really open people to really look at things differently and appreciate the difference, which will help us really celebrate and consider everybody equally.
Yes. I mean, I was going to ask the question, you've been in industry for longer than 10 years.
Yes.
What are some of the changes that have been able to impact women actually moving forwards compared to where you were when you first started? But you just answered and given me a perfect example of, unconscious bias training. These conversations are happening.
Yeah.
What does gender bias look like to you when you've seen it in action?
So I'll give you a recent example. Been doing some recruitment.
Yeah.
And I've heard language from particular candidates, which for me were surprising. So, as I mentioned before, we're an engineering company. We do product design and development. So the candidate assumed that they would be having a team of male engineers.
Okay.
And throughout the conversation, when I was asking them how their leadership style was and giving me examples how they would manage, they'd automatically assumed that they would be, and they were referring to male pronoun.
Right, okay.
And I kept correcting the person and saying, this is a diverse team. There's male, female, and even that still did not go through. And the person was insisting in their language.
Yeah.
That really surprised me because the person was obviously very much imagining that it would be male engineers.
That's interesting. You have to try to shift and change mindsets.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the individual wasn't doing it on purpose. He just wasn't aware.
Absolutely.
Or she wasn't aware. I'll just to myself there potentially. He or she was not aware potentially that they were doing it.
Absolutely.
And even when corrected, still by default, because it takes more than just once or twice to help change. But what tools would you say can we give people to help mitigate what's just taken place?
I think regular conversations and awareness and making sure that line managers, team leaders have received training and not just in a video about unconscious bias, but actually conversations with people. What does that mean? What does that look like? Example, real life example, so that they are confident about picking up things like that.
Okay.
I feel very confident now being able to correct somebody when there is a intolerance on somebody who may be neurodiverse, for example.
Yeah.
And that's just lack of awareness. So I've been on the journey to understand really, for example, neurodiversity.
Yeah.
And I'm far more aware now of what that looks like. And that makes me a better line manager, I think, because I can then have conversations with people when they are not aware that they are being not treating people equally and not treating people how they would like to be treated.
We've spoken about diversity and inclusion We've spoken about religion. And I really enjoyed the story of learning more about the original founders.
Yeah.
You know, can you just remind us of that, or remind me and tell our listeners and viewers about the original owners and their impact on, I guess you say, behind the scenes with religion and church and all that type of stuff?
So five people left another Cambridgeshire-based consultancy firm to set up their own little company. And it's one of those lovely stories where hard work and teamwork paid off. And they no longer are part of the business. And the last founder retired last year, actually. Quite an incredible person with a lot of charisma. And he shared some stories with me which were quite incredible about the hardships that they had, but also the success stories that made team consulting so successful to date. They got together because they wanted to do good. They started not in just medical, but they wanted to still do product development and design and engineering, and they were all engineers, I believe. And very quickly realised that actually medical was really the space that they wanted to get their teeth into. But what's interesting, and you talk about religion, is two of the founders were of faith and wanted to make sure that the company lived by the Christian values.
Okay.
And that meant doing good, giving back to others, and that's my interpretation.
Sure.
Right? And till this date, and they have left, we still very much have that as part of our core values. So we have integrity as one of our core values, collaboration. It's in the name.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's kept us a really solid company, and that's what attracts people to come to work for us. And we're very careful when we hire people that value is incredibly strong, or those values are incredibly strong.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, I know that team consulting are one of, if not the biggest device consultancies in Europe.
That's right.
What are some of the reasons why people would come now to work for Team?
Oh, plenty. Well, I mentioned the beautiful barn.
Yes.
Certainly a wow factor.
Yes.
I guess we are quite different from other consultancies because we do a whole range of medical devices. So we offer a wide range of projects to people who come and work with us. So it could be 3 weeks, it could be 3 years, and it could be something to do with in device testing, or it could be optics. So the range of capabilities that we have to offer to our clients is also attractive to people because they get to play and do really fun projects. And we're really careful about giving diversity of projects to people, so they really get their experience and their learning through practicing. And we tag people to more experienced engineers as well. So there's a lot of mentoring and knowledge sharing, which is really beneficial. I guess also the fact that we do it with purpose attracts people. So we are very mindful of the types of products we make. They've got to be in healthcare. We don't do anything else. We might be capable of doing it, but that's not what we're about. And we also feel, because we're employee-owned, but I think it was the case even before then, and very much a community. So people come not just to do work, but to actually be part of something that is much bigger. And we look after each other. We provide opportunities for people to do things together socially. We're mindful that one size doesn't fit all. So it's not just about, having a Christmas party or having drinks after work. People have families, they have lives outside of work as well. So we're incredibly flexible to make sure that people can have that balance and also enjoy coming to work because they want to have good relationships with colleagues.
It sounds like you're enjoying working with team consulting. As I've asked you that question, it's clear to see that you're not searching for answers here. It's something which you generally do live by and, you believe in, which is lovely to see and hear. So I want to know more now about your position, your current role, and what you do on a day-to-day to engage with the commercial side of the business to help drive team consulting into, I guess you'd say, a different stratosphere. We've spoken about accreditations, for example.
Yeah.
One which I wasn't aware of. I think I now know how to pronounce it. But I want to know if you can just give an overview as a senior woman on the leadership team for team consulting, what you do on a day-to-day or what you've done to take the organisation to a different level.
Well, I'll probably start with that one that you've just mentioned. That's quite
I think I mentioned it, but here we go. The official name of it is called?
EcoVadis.
EcoVadis.
Yes. So people who are in the life sciences and probably healthcare sector would be getting more and more familiar with the word sustainability.
Yes.
Or ESG, whatever you want to call it. Doing good by the planet, by the people. That's very much what EcoVadis does for you. It assesses your organisation in terms of its impact and how it also has its how it manages its governance of its sustainability. So ESG is environment, social governance. So environment's quite straightforward. Trying to become less have carbon emissions reduced. Social, it's about impacting your local community. It's about impacting your employees. It's about all your stakeholders effectively. And then governance is very much about how do you make sure that it happens? How can you be true to yourself? How do you audit yourself? How do others audit you, such as EcoVadis? And how do you stick your neck out and promise very publicly that you are going to continue on that journey? So EcoVadis is one way of measuring how you're doing from a sustainability perspective. Other people who are familiar with this area would probably quote other things. We went specifically for that certification, that measurement based on some of our pharmaceutical clients' needs. So they, over the years, they've always asked us for our ISO certificate. They've always asked us for how do we fare in terms of other compliance legislations and things like that. But over the last, I would say, 4 or 5 years, the wind's been turning towards, well, how are you doing when it comes to sustainability? Why should we still use you as a supplier?
Your clients asking you these questions? Okay.
Absolutely. There's big pharmaceuticals out there who have made public promises to be carbon neutral, net zero targets. They have to partner with their suppliers in order to become sustainable, because scope 3 effectively is your supply chain, and how do you manage that? So they have to pay attention to what their suppliers are doing, And for us, we've always done some elements of sustainability anyway. We've always given to charity, for example, a portion of our profits.
Yeah.
We've always tried to reduce our waste because that's the right thing to do. But I would say that it's been far more formal in the last few years, and the governance bit was probably the bit that wasn't quite there before, whereas now we're really focused. We have groups getting together to actually come up with plans, action plans. We then measure our progress against those actions. We measure our waste, we measure our carbon emissions, we measure our employee commute, which is something that we didn't do 5 years ago, for example.
When you say measure a commute, I mean, number one, who leads this? For example, what type of individual or job title would be looking at the EcoVadis of, for example, team consulting?
Yeah.
And how do you measure a journey?
There's some good tools out there.
Yeah.
So yeah, we don't reinvent the wheel, and sustainability is very much about leveraging on what others have done before, so you can quickly get to that point. So very much about collaboration. So we partnered with another consultancy firm who's a supplier of ours and has the same values, same size business, and they helped us on our journey to become more sustainable. Forgotten the beginning of your question.
That's okay. I think I have too. That's all right. What type of individual who looks after the EcoVadis?
So 3 years ago, it was very much a bottom-up approach of looking for volunteers and people who were keen to support the initiative. And we pull these people together. So some people are from our consultancy services. Some people are from business operations. And then I was leading the group. And then we've called it a steering group, and it's very much open to any employee who's interested.
What I love about what you said about EcoVadis is a couple of things, because it's about doing good. It's about the values of your company, which were already implemented by the original owners, whether it's the religious side or whether it's just this is who we are as people, this is what we want to do. You could even potentially look at it from the location of where you're based. You're not in the hustle and bustle of a city. You're in a very remote area, which is a beautiful area where you can be, I guess, you can explore.
Yeah.
You can take risks, and be risk averse if need be as well. But it's great to see and hear that clients and partners are wanting to know what their parties, whether they're partners, whether they're business owners, are doing to promote sustainability. And one of the things which I was impressed with is Team Consulting's and yours approach to it and how it was met with opening arms, really. From a process perspective of EcoVadis, how do you get that accreditation?
It's not easy work. Okay, so I was supported by a group of formidable women who helped me to collate all of that information. And the wider group, the wider organisation also had to help us in some of the documentation that we had to pull together. Effectively, it's like an audit, but it's a desk-based audit.
Okay.
So you go on a platform online and you upload objective evidence that you meet of certain criteria. So you'll have a question and they'll say, upload, do you do this? And if so, where's your objective evidence? And you upload whatever documentation you feel best represents, proof. And then that gets sent to them as a package, and then effectively they carry out a due diligence process of your documentation. There are certain requirements. It can't be, any piece of paper. So there are certain things you need to be mindful of. So it's probably things like it's got to be a policy, okay, but it's got to be signed, it's got to be dated. It can't be really, really old. It's got to be valid. So you've got to think like a compliance person, okay, how am I going to be convincing that person, wherever they're based in the world, that I have answered with the correct information? I guess our experience of having done that for many years with, ISO 13485 or FDA, QMS requirements, we're in the regulated space, so we know what a good document looks like. So I guess we were quite relaxed. It was more about pulling it all together, and there were gaps. We weren't sure how we would fare. We had a good shot, and there were certain things that we went, well, we haven't really got that objective evidence, but we can pull it together because it might not be written down, but we do these things.
Can any company go for EcoVadis accreditation?
Yes, they can. And what they do is put you in certain categories. So not everyone is judged the same way, and an SME is judged differently than a very large corporate organisation. And a medical devices consultancy firm is not going to be compared to, a wheat farming company. So that's the good thing as well.
Okay.
But it's all based on going back to the UN Sustainable Development Goals. It's also based on certain standards. So it's very reputable because it lines up very, very well with what the UN is trying to do to combat climate change, to combat poverty. So there's 17 Sustainable Development Goals that are underpinning all of that.
Yeah, great. So what does EcoVadis look like and the accreditation mean for the future of team consulting?
It means that we can remain competitive and demonstrate to our clients that we understand their journey. It also means that we can expand our offering, because if we understand sustainability at a corporate level, we understand what our clients are looking for, and they are looking to us to do product design for products that are going to be sustainable for the future. So we then have an opportunity to really branch out some of our services. And recently, in the last few years, we've had so many clients come to us saying, I know I need to, or I want to. My stakeholders, my shareholders tell me that I need to make my products more sustainable. How do I go about that? And we also work with startups who have no idea how to start to put a product on the market. But regulations will change, and products will have to be sustainable. So it's a good thing for us to be really understanding what our clients are looking for. And EcoVadis is one way of demonstrating an independent check that we really get it. It's not just us saying it, it's somebody has verified it.
Yeah, no, the recognition of that, I think, is really important, especially if the world is changing in this direction. You see it in so many different areas, but to have something which people can say, here's something tangible, here's our paperwork, this is what we represent, this is who we are.
Yeah.
I think it's powerful.
Yeah.
It's really powerful. A question which kind of touches on both you personally and professionally. As a leader, what does responsibility look like in terms of encouraging more or a more sustainable future?
I guess I'm lucky that I can talk about that, for example, at the board, so I can raise awareness and the importance of that activity. I can ensure that we have the right resources, we make time for it. There's definitely an appetite across all the departments to do that anyway, but it's really important to also have board approval to do it. As I said, commitment also starts with a CEO letter to UN Global Compact. So you have to make sure that they understand, okay, we really are committed. And that does mean that, part of our budget is going to be for certain things. So this year, part of our budget was about putting solar panels on one of our buildings. That's not cheap.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a voice there, and I can explain, yes, we do want to spend £35,000 so that we can get solar panels. It is important.
Yeah.
Have that voice is really a privilege, really, to be able to do that at my level.
And again, it just goes to show the importance and, not to... It's true. Another reason to be attracted to Team Consulting, therefore, off the back of what you've just said, is that you're an organisation that talks the talk, clearly. There's so many people listening to this who work for organisations, and I'm sure we all have collectively here, where managers, directors, C-suites will say they are for something, and then behind the scenes, it's a very different story. So it's great that Team Consulting have been able to put the money where their mouth is, to be able to promote what they actually believe, and the lasting impact that will have. It's wonderful to hear. It's refreshing to hear, actually.
I've had experiences in other companies, just like you said, where that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
We're incredibly transparent as an organisation. I think it's part of our value of integrity. We're transparent with our clients, but we're transparent with all the employees, what's going on, and what we need to do. And we listen. So people feel they have a voice, and therefore they use their voice, and therefore we can hear what's happening, and we can address what people's needs are.
That's important. And you just said the word hear. You hear, because people can talk and they listen, but they don't necessarily hear what the crime might be or what the purpose is. So that's great. Looking to the future, Sarah, what's the biggest change that you'd like to see happen in your industry? I'm sure there are a few, but what would you say would be something pressing in your mind in today's day that you'd like to see change?
I guess the sustainability is still something that is new and a little slow to change.
Is that because of lack of understanding around it, do you think?
I think a lot of reason, lack of understanding, lack of regulations. Some companies, they won't do it unless they legally have to. And that's a fact. We know which clients are actively doing it and which clients, are not that interested. And it's a shame because if we were able to design, for example, a medical product which may be around in 20 years' time, if we can design it to be recyclable, to be reusable, then that will make a lasting impact when you're talking at large volumes of a surgical product or an inhaler or a auto-injector pen. All of that at the moment, there's very little that is recyclable out there, and the industry has really got to understand the power that it has to really change things if we design something that inherently is going to be much better from a sustainability perspective. But sometimes you have to go to consultancies to get that expertise, and sometimes it is not cheap. If you've got a great selling product on the market, having to redesign it so that it is sustainable can be quite a costly exercise. And it's a shame in a way to see that some companies are not on that journey at all.
Yeah. So in closing, I have a question, Sarah, which I'd like to ask, which is specifically related to you. We have heard, and you say that you're from France, who came to the UK to study in Southampton, who's with team consulting, gone from research to hands-on QA, to now in a business position of operations, knowing what you know now, where do you see and what advice would you give to yourself for the future?
Oh, for the future.
For the future, Sarah.
It might surprise you, but it might be a personal thing. But I remember being quite junior already and looking at women in leadership, and I was petrified of speaking with them because they were leaders, they were directors of big pharmaceutical companies, they were impressive. And I was in awe of them. I looked up to them. And a few of them would talk to me, and a lot of them hid in boardrooms, and I never saw them. And I thought, if this happens to me one day, that'll be a real shame, because I couldn't connect with them because they didn't have time. And for future me, that's what I really don't want to happen. I am in meetings all the time pretty much, but I consciously want to make sure that I continue to connect with people and see them and have coffee with them and be available and be a friend, be a colleague, not get too stuck up in some boardroom or some meeting room for a whole day and people don't see me anymore. Because I think this is where there's a disconnect between senior leadership and the rest of the organisation, and you lose touch.
So true.
You lose touch. So I really want to consciously not do that. Make time. I do that now, and I really want to think that my career will continue progressing. But I'll always make time for just being with people.
Yeah. That's great. And so true. It's you can get stuck in the job. You can get stuck in the fact that you're speaking to other CEOs, other directors all the time. But just to be available.
Yeah.
And to talk to everybody.
Yeah. I
think is so important, and they're great values as well. I think that clearly you have. You've installed into team consulting, hence why we're here today. Thank you for taking the time to come and visit us here in London, officially as part of the BioTalent brand for BioTalent Social. I know that all the colleagues in which you've had interaction with over the years will be very grateful and thankful. And long may our professional and personal relationships continue to support each other. It's not always easy. We've had COVID, we've had illnesses, and the support factor, I think, in the community of people who are like-minded is always very important. But thank you for coming today to speak to myself, and we look forward